So hello and welcome everybody. This is Dr. Jones, the chemistry tutor. Now in the next 5 minutes I'm going to show you how to convert an amount in grams to an amount in moles. So please stay tuned. Now to illustrate how to convert grams into moles, I'm going to use a real world example. Now imagine you're in the lab and you just measured out 320 grams of copper sulfate. Now the chemical formula for copper sulfate is CuSO4. How many moles of copper sulfate would you have? So this is a typical grams to moles calculation. I've given you the amount in grams and I've asked you to convert it to an amount in moles. So how would we go about tackling a question like this? Well, the first thing you'd need to ask is how many atoms of each element are present within your compound. So let's take, for example, copper sulfate. We have one atom of copper, we have one atom of sulfur, and we have 4 atoms of oxygen. That's because if you look at the oxygen, there's a small 4 to the right of it. It means there's 4 atoms of oxygen. So that's the first thing we need to do. We need to break the compound down and we need to ask how many atoms of each element are present. Now, let's go to part number 2. What do we do next? Well, what we need to do next is we need to look up each of these elements within the periodic table. So let's start off. Now copper is denoted by the symbol Cu. It's found within the middle of the periodic table. It's actually a transition element. Now once you find copper, if you have a look underneath it, it's given the number 64. What does this number mean? Well, all we need to do for now is we need to take a note of it. It's the relative atomic mass of copper. And what it means is if you had 1 mole of copper, you would have 64 grams. So we note down next to our copper that copper equals 64 grams. Now, let's have a look at sulfur. The relative atomic mass of sulfur equals 32. That means 1 mole of sulfur equals 32 grams. So next to sulfur, write 32. Now look at oxygen. Oxygen has the number 16. It means the relative atomic mass of oxygen is 16. So 1 mole of oxygen would equal 16 grams. So that's part 2. You've looked at your periodic table. You've looked up the relative atomic mass for each element within your compound and you've written the number down. Now the third stage is you have to add up all those numbers together. You calculate something called the relative molecular mass. So for copper sulfate, we've got 1 atom of copper. So we do 64 plus 1 atom of sulfur. So sulfur is 32. So 64 plus 32. Now we've got 4 atoms of oxygen. So we do 16 times 4. So the full calculation is 64 plus 32 plus 16. So we say 1 mole of the compound copper sulfate equals 160 grams. I'm going to write the calculation on the front of my computer screen now so that you can see how I've derived that number. So this number is telling us is if we had 1 mole of copper sulfate, we would have 160 grams. But we haven't weighed out 160 grams, we've weighed out more than that. We've weighed out 320 grams. So how many moles are in 320 grams and how would we go about calculating it? This is the final part of the calculation. If you take the amount that you've measured out, which is 320 grams, and you divide it by the amount that 1 mole equals, so that's 160 grams, it will give you the amount of moles, the final answer that you're after, the amount of moles that you've got. So we've got 320 divided by 160 equals 2 moles. So the amount of moles we've got of copper sulfate, if we've weighed out 320 grams, is 2 moles. Okay, so that's the answer. Now, this is a really complicated subject. If you've had any trouble at all following along with me now, please don't hesitate to leave a message below in the bar. I'm going to link you to some more molarity videos that I've done and some other excellent molarity videos on the internet, on YouTube. If you've got any problems, please leave a comment below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. This has been Dr. Jones, the chemistry tutor. I hope you have a great day, and if you've got a test coming up, good luck. I'm sure you'll do great. So this has been how to convert grams to moles. In my next video, I convert moles back to grams. So if you'd like to watch that, please click on the link. See you later.